JBN, we keep you informed. Bus driver, silver bullet, a murder accused, shot dead in Trelawney. The Trelawney police are following several leads into the murder of a bus driver who was shot and killed at his gate by unknown assailants on Saturday morning. The deceased has been identified as Robert Dawkins, also called Silver Bullet, of a Sherwood Content, Trelawney address. At the time of his death, Dawkins still had a matter before the courts after he was charged with the December 2013 murder of a 65-year-old woman. Reports are that on Saturday at about 1 a.m. Dawkins was washing the Toyota Coaster bus which he operates when he was pounced upon by unknown assailants who rode up on a motorcycle. Dawkins ran but was chased and shot by his attackers. He was assisted to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. 2 men fatally shot by police in 2 parishes. 2 men were fatally shot by the police during separate incidents in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland between Friday and Saturday morning. The deceased have been identified as 28-year-old Milton Seaton of Lacovia, St. Elizabeth, and Kemoy Crooks of Whitehall in Westmoreland. In the first incident, Seaton was shot after reportedly pointing a gun at law enforcers on Friday. Reports are that sometime after 4 a.m., a team of officers in search of wanted men went to Seaton's house in the Lacovia area. During the visit to the house, Seaton allegedly pointed the gun at the police, who took evasive action and shot him. Seaton was assisted to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Meanwhile, the detailed circumstances surrounding the shooting death of Crooks on Saturday morning remain unclear. However, preliminary reports indicate that about 11:30 a.m. the police responded to a domestic dispute in Whitehall in Negril, Westmoreland. Crooks was later shot by officers during a reported confrontation with them. He was pronounced dead at hospital. The Independent Commission of Investigations Indicom has launched separate probes into the shooting incidents. Tourists have choice to test for COVID-19. There will be no pre-testing or quarantining of visitors to Jamaica when the island reopens its borders for international travel on Monday, June 15. Jamaica closed its borders on March 24 to flatten the curve of the coronavirus disease, which has infected 586 nationals, 9 fatally. The travel restrictions have shuttered scores of hotels and guest houses locally and hemorrhaged an estimated 300,000 direct and indirect tourism-related jobs. Disclosing new protocols on entry into the island, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, during a press conference at Jamaica House on Sunday evening, said that the country did not have the human resource and fiscal capacity to carry out testing for the virus at its 3 international airports and several seaports. It will place a strain on the public health system. It is just not feasible to test flights with 200 to 300 passengers coming in at the same time, he said in response to a question on Sunday. However, the Prime Minister said that there will be provisions for persons who wish to be tested voluntarily. According to the Prime Minister, passengers will go through temperature checks and a process of sanitization. Both visitors and staff who display temperatures higher than 100.3 degrees Fahrenheit and or flu-like symptoms will be flagged by airport, hotel attraction, and transportation staff for secondary health checks in designated spaces, which may be referred for review to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Both the Prime Minister and Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton warned that the reopening of borders might trigger a surge in COVID-19 cases. Having learned of the new protocols, a few hoteliers expressed concerns on Sunday night, stating that they would have preferred a pre-testing regime before boarding a flight to the island. Their argument follows proposal made by the umbrella group, the Jamaica Hotel and the Tourist Association, JHTA, which had asked for a 72-hour negative test result by all visitors to the island. The testing capacity in the United States, however, is proving to be highly unavailable, and I think the risk is too high without it, said a hotelier who requested anonymity, who operates a resort in Ocho-Rios. Another hotelier who asked not to be identified said that she understood that the airlines were not in agreement with the idea of pre-testing, owing to the burden that they would be in providing proof that a passenger had a negative test from a credible source. In the meantime, Jamaicans who have been shut off for the last 2 months will be allowed to return to the island today, June 1. During the period, June 1 to 14, all persons entering the country will be subject to testing except for those entering from a country designated as a travel bubble. Nations with management and profile results for COVID-19 similar to Jamaica's regarding spread, death rate, infection prevention and control measures, contact tracing protocols, and other such criteria. Persons seeking to enter Jamaica from countries within this travel bubble may not need to be tested on arrival. They would, however, be subject to health status screening, including temperature checks and symptom observation. Everyone is required to go through a sensitization program with a public health official using flyers and audio visuals. We are also considering including a pledge document, which will need to be signed, the Prime Minister said. He added that based on their health status and risk assessment by a public health officer, Jamaicans seeking to re-enter would still be subjected to a mandatory 14-day quarantine. The full tourism protocols have been embargoed until next week. No eyes on police and army after years of promises, not one body camera in action. More than half a decade after moves were made to equip personnel with body cameras to guard against unprofessional conduct and extrajudicial killings, national security and defense officials have confirmed that neither the police nor the army has any of the surveillance equipment currently deployed. The revelation comes in the wake of the controversial killing of Susan Bogle, a disabled woman, in an alleged running gun battle between soldiers and armed men in Augustown, Eastern St. Andrew last week. The fatal shooting has sparked a national outrage and reignited a call from several quarters for greater accountability from the security forces, forcing even Prime Minister Andrew Holness to make it a matter of priority when he commenced his Jamaica House press conference on Sunday evening. Meanwhile, Bogle's son, Omari Stevens, has raised concerns about the circumstances of her killing, suggesting that there was no indication that his mother was slain in a crossfire. Holness conceded that he was very concerned about rising complaints of unprofessional and criminal conduct to the Independent Commission of Investigations Indicom, the watchdog with oversight over on-duty police and military personnel. There have been at least 18 reports against the JDF to Indicom up to May, more than for the entire 2019. The Prime Minister, however, defended the JDF's reputation of governance and procedure, rejecting suggestions that the army lacked transparency. The matter of body cams re-emerged after Indicom revealed that the absence of surveillance equipment on military combatants posed a challenge to its probe into Bogle's killing. JDF Chief of Defense Staff Lieutenant General Rocky Meade reported Sunday evening that the Army was currently in the process of testing cameras to be rolled out. Meade did not offer a hard timeline on the procurement of body cams or disclose the quantity projected for deployment by the JDF. We had a few cameras, but they weren't sufficient enough to stand up to the normal activities of the troops, and we got a different set this year that are currently undergoing testing. So we do not have wide-scale deployment of cameras at the moment, but we are going through the process that will allow us to have cameras, Meade said. 4 soldiers have been taken off frontline duty and their weapons collected for ballistics testing by Indicom. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang said on Sunday night that the Jamaica Constabulary Force has no body cameras currently deployed. Chang attributed non-deployment to the procurement of faulty equipment and said that the government intended to purchase a large inventory of cameras. What we had was inappropriate because they were taking the police's face and had other issues, and of course, the poor officers would be charged with trying to mislead the public. We are in the process of identifying the appropriate instrument and reordering because we need a large amount of cameras, about 1,200 for starters, but we will need more than that, Chang said. You will realize that the commissioner wears a different style uniform in recent times because the original uniform design just couldn't accommodate the cameras. However, although Chang vowed that the ministry would begin the procurement of body cameras this financial year. Holness was non-committal to an immediate investment in a mass outlay, citing budgetary constraints. COVID-19 restrictions have placed the Holness administration in a fiscal bind, with the economy estimated to shrink by up to 14% in the June quarter and up to 6% for fiscal year 2020-2021. Jamaica has seriously pursued the acquisition and build-out of body cameras throughout the constabulary since at least 2014, but the process was delayed and derailed because of procurement and bureaucracy snafus. But some critics have suggested a lack of will from policymakers and a pushback from security personnel resistant to oversight. In 2016, the JCF received more than 120 body cameras valued approximately US $400,000 through funding from the US Embassy in Jamaica. Bogle was shot multiple times as she lay in bed. It is alleged that a gunman was chased by soldiers into her yard. During a walkthrough of Bogle's Bryce Hill Road yard on Sunday afternoon, alongside Chang and Commissioner of Police Anthony Anderson, Stevens questioned the theory of a crossfire. What is really bothering me is that there is no other entry point of bullet into the house. They had to pull the door and see her lying on the bed and shot multiple times. The only bullet holes are on the wall. If you're running down a man, then that's fine, because this is a trouble yard. But the multiple shots is bothering me, Stevens said. An unidentified soldier was on the scene and heard Stevens' queries, voiced a sort of agreement about the logic of the arguments. The son makes some good points, the soldier said to the other members of the JDF. However, Chang discounted preliminary conclusions until a thorough investigation has been completed. The social conditions in the big yard are very challenging, and it's one of the things we have articulated in terms of how do we fix these areas. In terms of what is happening inside, I will let the forensic investigators follow through, because first impression is never necessarily what it is. We will let Indicom do a proper report, and we will see what comes out of that, the National Security Minister said. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.